Well, good morning. Thank you very much for coming. I'll give you a little bit on Urbana and a little bit of background, and I'll watch my time here as well, because Liz, as you know, is pretty adamant about that. Urban got its start as Urban Quebec Mines, which was, it had some property in Urban Township. It was a bit of a misnomer because there was no mines, but anyway, that's how it started. I ended up taking this company over. It was a shell at that time. It hadn't filed any forms. It had claims, 6 claims in gold prospects in Quebec that had been staked in 1947. It has very rich gold values on it. And so I felt everybody had a gold mine and I should have one as well. So we took this over. That had minus $40,000 in liabilities at that time. And we got it listed. And finally, we put some money in, and it was kind of funny. There's older companies like there's all kinds of funny stories. One of our stories is Michael Gundy, one of our directors, and I went to the Toronto Stock Exchange. There's Michael there. He's still alive, of course. We go to the Toronto Stock Exchange. We go to the Toronto Stock Exchange to get this company listed. The other exchange, I should refer to. Sorry, Richard. Anyway, we're sitting down. In those days, you had to have a work program and $350,000 in the cash to pay for the work program on your property. So we sat there, we had the work program, we had $350,000 in the treasury. And I remember the fellow said, well, wait a second, once you spend this $350,000, how are you going to have any more money? And I said, yes, we'll just put in another $350,000. And he said, well, how can we be assured you're going to do that? And I said, well, it's no problem. I will send you a picture of my house, and Mr. Gundy will send you a photostat of his birth certificate. And everybody started laughing, and they listed us. We never did put in the other $350,000, by the way, so that's how we got listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange. In 2002, we converted the company to an investment company because, you know, we still have the gold property, and I'm going to come back to that. But, you know, put one guy in the bush with a chainsaw, and he's going to cut his toe off. It'll take you 3 weeks of logistics. So I thought, wait a second, we can buy and sell securities at a machine here. That seems simpler to us. So we focused originally on exchanges, the New York Stock Exchange, the Chicago Board Option Exchange, and at one point, almost 37 exchanges around the world, because we felt it was a great idea to own the casino, if you will, where all the bets are. And exchanges become far more gambling institutions, with the exception of the CSE, the Canadian Securities Exchange, which still raises money for real companies trying to do stuff. Our exposure broadened over time. We've done a lot of things other than that. But let me tell you about Urbana itself. That's sort of a little bit of the history, and we got lots of these little stories behind us. The beauty with Urbana is we have permanent capital. Permanent capital. We can be patient. We have no time demands on any investment we go into. We can be there for a week, or we can be there for 10 years. It doesn't matter to us, because we don't have money draining off against us. As again, Mike Gundy has said to me, we spent years becoming an overnight success, and it does. Sometimes it is patient. And the beauty is we can grow with our investee companies. Now, Urbana has a combination of public and private companies, and we try to balance around 50-50. But this ensures that all of our capital is used productively all of the time. We can go where the opportunities exist anywhere. I mean, we're looking at one in Australia at the present time. I was talking to a company the other day, and they were saying, well, you know, we need to have somebody with deep pockets. I said, we've got $500 million. That should be enough to cover you. And they said, well, you know, we have a long-term commitment. I said, well, we've been involved in one businesses for years, decades. And they said, well, yeah, but we need a quick answer. I said, the beauty with Urbana, I said, I can make the decision to commit right now at this table, period. There's nobody can arrive with the firepower we do as quickly as we can. Anyway, it kind of got their attention. Our targets, we don't go for pure high tech. I mean, remember the tech wreck some years ago? We were all investing in companies that nobody really understood. We still have a little bit of that now in AI, for example. We tend to look at applied technology, usually older industries that are made better with technology. Real Matters is an example. Fund Through, that we'll be speaking today, is an example of that kind of. Tetra is another one. The companies that are traditionally old businesses, but made better through technology. Some of them are like our original startups. We would take a mutually owned company and make it a public company. And you see, one of the things I've noticed through my deep research is that not-for-profit companies tend not to generate profits. I know that's deep. But if I can convert it to a corporation that makes profit, there's a step up here. And that indeed was the case with a lot of these exchanges. But we did the same with IGPC recently. They're not here at this presentation because the company's been sold. And again, it was demutualizing. It was taking a cooperative, for the benefit of the members company, turning it into a corporation. And to give you a rough idea, we put a $7.5 million investment in that company. We received just under $12 million in dividends and distributions, and we sold it for a $65 million profit in December of last year, just at the end of the year. And by the way, I want to particularly thank the team at Caldwell Investment Management, headed by Brendan Caldwell, and at Caldwell Securities, headed by Angela Stirpe. That deal was generated and enabled, if you will, through the facilities of Caldwell Investment Management and Caldwell Securities, and the teams in both of those places. So, okay, what's this done? Well, we started out with minus 40 grand, and we built it up to $650 million, and then we paid out about $150 million. So we got about $500 million that we're working with at the present time. People ask me what the goal of the company is. The goal of this company is to get our net assets to $1 billion. That's it. It's like Churchill, what's your goal? My goal is to wage war. Our goal, $1 billion. That's it. Look at everything, interpret it against that backdrop. Because, not that it's an ego thing, but smaller companies in Canada become orphans. No one pays attention to you. The bigger bank dealer firms will only buy companies if you're index included. And the only way you can get there is you've got to be size. And so that's our goal. So my goal is to get that $1 billion, which means either I have to live to 115 years of age or do something really brilliant shortly. So we'll keep you posted. So far, I'm feeling okay. But I got a real bunch of smart young people waiting in the wings, like Brendan, sometimes anxiously waiting. Anyway, so at any rate, like the past year, just give you an idea, we're up about 27.3% in net assets per share. That's after tax, by the way, because this is a tax corporation. So we're a little over 27%. Share price moved 32% last year. We've increased our dividend by 8.3% this year, and that's our sixth consecutive dividend increase. So we've tried to make it regularly where we're continuing to do that. Long term, just to give you an idea, since we created this investment company in 2002, our annual after-tax earnings annually compound has been 15.5%. And by the way, that encompasses one of the most cataclysmic financial collapses in modern times, the 2008. Just to give you an idea, our holding of the New York Stock Exchange, which is our main holding, went from $94 to $15. And you'd have to do a lot of really aggressive trading to make that one back. But we did, and we're back into new highs. Anyway, let me talk about this is what I call the lottery ticket component of our portfolio. We've got some really neat companies, and you're going to hear from them today. But this is a little bit back to our roots. I mentioned the 6 claims we took over in Urban Township. Well, we expanded them to 74 claims, and it's now been reclassified as 44 super claims. Urban Township was the back of beyond. We had to fly in everything. We actually flew a bulldozer in parts, and it was very expensive. Now there's access roads right onto the property. There's hydro right onto the property. The logistics of exploring there has increased dramatically. The properties around us is controlled originally by Osisco on the north of us and Bonterra on the south of us. All of them have been taken over more or less by Goldfields, the large South African company, which is important because South Africa is deep stuff. And Urban Township has become the gold hotspot in Canada, by the way. So pure dumb luck, although I will claim skill if it turns out to be something great. But it was the back and beyond, as I said, and now it is the gold hotspot in Canada, possibly in the world. And there's gold all over the place. Okay, but it's thin intersections. So that means it's coming from down deep, South African deep. So to have a South African major player in that area And their property now totally surrounds us. We're like the little house in the middle of all the big apartment buildings. And eventually, they're going to come to us. But we're starting a program this year. We're going back there to take a look. We have about 3,000 acres. And remember, a gold mine, gold mines are not a lot of lateral exposure. They tend to plunge deep like a pretzel. It gets broken, twisted as it plunges deep because it comes up from the magma, it comes up from the earth. So they're long pencil. For example, the Hemlo mine in Ontario is on one claim, 40 acres. So that gives you an idea that we have a good enough land spread to look for what we want. And as I say, the gold is all over the place. And we have some spectacular gold values, but it's getting the tonnage to go with it. So our property of 3,000 acres is nothing compared to what the Goldfields guys have, but they're surrounding us and they're drilling all over, just on our boundaries. In fact, one of their holes just went in on our side of the boundary, we believe, which is fine. It saves us money. We're going to spend about $1 million. We're going to do about 4,000 meters of drilling. We don't plan to be a mining company. This is a portfolio position for us. This position is such that we want to create the value, and our goal is eventually to sell it for stock or cash and retain a net smelter royalty if there's a property, a mining property that develops, a mine that comes onto this property. So it's still it's interesting to be involved. It's going back to our roots, and it is the lottery component. 'Cause, I mean, that could eclipse everything if it is what most of us dream about, but we'll see. Anyway, we're not going to be in the mining business. We're going to do the work to be able to vend it out. That's kind of a thinking. Marketable securities. Our big positions in the marketable, publicly traded securities at U.S. financials, that's been a spectacular win for us. And Canadian energy. And Canadian energy, it was, one of the things, again, through my in-depth research, I noticed when governments try to cut supply, the price goes up. I know that's deep, that's economics 101. So we just took a big position in the Canadian energy stocks, and that's worked out well for us. Again, the hypocritical part of investments, we owned IGPC, which was an ethanol producer, and we were collecting carbon credits from the federal government. So we were betting against the government on one hand and with them on the other hand. I mean, you got to expect hypocrisy of that nature. U.S. financials and Canadian energy, we're still staying in those positions. We did recently just a Trump trade, and my Trump trade, it was interesting, bought some Boeing aircraft. Boeing has been a mess. I mean, I don't have to tell you that. I mean, they have planes nose diving into the ground, doors flying off, cracks developing. It's just a mess. They get people in space for a 2-day trip when they've been there for 6 months. I mean, it's just a mess. And so there was a documentary on Netflix on Boeing. You should watch that. And that was prescient. That was quite before this happened. But if you want to make America great again, you got to build Boeing. You got to pour the money in. And the Americans will do that. For example, Airbus won a tanker contract for the U.S. government. And guess what happened? The contest got canceled. They redid it, and Boeing won it. I mean, there's a surprise. So if you're going to make America great again, you got to go with Boeing. And I'm a garbage, I can't say it. Liz always hates saying I say I'm a garbage man. I like stuff when it's under crisis, so we bought some Boeing. The other Trump trade we bought is we bought some Alibaba. And now China will be reconstituted. America and other companies, you need enemies. You need enemies. And China's the current enemy. But eventually, Trump sees himself as a big guy doing big deals with other big guys. And he and Xi, they're going to cut a deal at some point in time. So, eventually, China will be, and it trades at about a quarter of the price of Amazon with a market that's, quintuple the size that they address in the United States. And the other one is the Agnico Eagle gold mines. You see, prior to having our own gold mine, we figured we should ride on someone else's coattails. But the beauty with Agnico Eagle, it's a Canadian gold mine. So if Trump massacres us as in the trade thing, the Canadian dollar is going to tank. And Agnico Eagle has all their costs in Canadian dollars, and they sell their products in US dollars. That, again, is not Mensa type thinking, but that gives you an idea of kind of what we think in markets. Our private companies, we've had some wonderful results. And we've had a few clangers in the private stuff. You don't get involved in the private sector without hitting some landmines along the way. But we've had some excellent results. We had a really neat one, although I don't mean to jump ahead of Blue Ocean here, but for example, Blue Ocean does trading during daylight hours in Asia, and during the DeepSeek announcement the other day, I mean, horrendous volumes through Blue Ocean because something happened in the world when the rest of the world was closed. And you either had Asians selling or Americans selling, and where are they going to go to? Blue Ocean. It's like that Ghostbusters. Who are you going to call? Blue Ocean. So, just gives you a rough idea. Now, the coming year, we anticipate some liquidity events and possibly some additional investments in our investee company. And that's why this meeting is important. It's important for me. In smaller, newer enterprises, the most important thing is the caliber of management, the character of the driving personalities. You can have an idiot run Bell Telephone, which indeed they have had. But if you've got flawed management in a smaller company, you're going to get killed. So it really comes, and listen, over the years, I've made mistakes. I've misjudged people. But I'm really enthusiastic about the people that are going to be presenting today because it's kind of a rejuvenator for me, to really see, wow, these guys are really great. They're really good. They're really committed. They're really involved in their businesses, and they eat, sleep, and breathe what they're trying to build. And that's incredible. And it's incredible to grab onto their coattails. And that's what we've done in these private companies. And I think you'll be enthused by listening to them as well. So Urbana, stock trades at $6, Toronto Stock Exchange. Asset value is $11.50. So basically, you get double the assets working for you, which creates the leverage. And somebody said, what are you going to do to narrow the discount? Well, I said, I can narrow the discount immediately. I'll just stop producing the asset value. I won't even publish it, because it's not about closing the gap. And it may close over time as the company gets bigger following, as it becomes larger. I believe that will narrow in. It may never close. The key is the stock price. Stock price had a 30% lift this year. That's not too bad while you're waiting for something else to happen.